and just work with people I feel good working around who do, appreciate what I can offer to something. And if they don't get that about me, it's their missed opportunity. And once I started doing that, opportunities started knocking on my door. My calendar got so full, people asking me to help them, to mentor them, to partner with them. And so whatever your greatest insecurity is, just be okay with it. Just accept that. And I think confidence for me came from there, from just understanding, I'm quiet, I'm meek-mannered, I'm not tough and sexy. This is who I am.
This is the Naturopathic Podcast, the podcast where we optimize the bodies, brains, and lifestyles of entrepreneurs, go-getters, and world-changing innovators.
Welcome to the Naturopathic Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Walker. As an anthropologist and naturopathic doctor, I optimize the health and performance of badass women working to change the world as entrepreneurs and go-getters. You know these people. They're people exactly like you. Your business, body, balance, and inner badass, these are the themes that we are exploring. Before we jump into the interview, I want to invite you to join our free Facebook community, Legacy. If you want to be something amazing, you need to surround yourself with amazing people. The Legacy community is made up of badass women living, not leaving, but living our legacy every single day. We are leaders, parents, entrepreneurs, and innovators collectively committed to leaving the world better than we found it. My mission is to support the health and optimization of these badass superheroes, literally to places we never thought imaginable. If you are on a mission and get it that your health is the key to your unlimited potential, then join us. We are super awesome. You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/BE Legacy. See you there. I had so much fun on the interview that I conducted today. And I had fun because it was this perfect coming together of themes that I have been talking about with clients and with patients all week long. And this is the notion of confidence and finding your authentic self. It was not the intention of this interview for us to segue into this really important and deep conversation, but is the natural evolution of the skill set of the guests that I interviewed. Razi Berry is a businesswoman. She's an entrepreneur. She is a mother, and I call her a naturopathic knight. She is the editor of the Naturopathic News and Reviews, NDNR, and the host of the website Naturopath, and together they receive over 1 million hits a year. She believes that her legacy is promoting naturopathic medicine and giving people easy access to this philosophy of care, and for that, I am forever grateful. What you will realize as you listen to Razi is that she is this incredibly gentle soul with this fierce purpose, and she combines the two of them in such a way that they are authentic and they are confident and they are action oriented. This interview was full of nuggets about finding your inner badass, about driving your business, and how to really find that reconciliation of someone who's not always the loudest voice in the room, but can be just as powerful. It was an emotional interview. It was an important interview, and I'm really excited to share it with all of you. Razi Berry. Razi Berry, welcome to the Naturopathic Podcast.
Megan, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to have this conversation. You're a health advocate, a badass entrepreneur, a mother, and a serious role model to me and so many others. Share with us how you got here, a little bit about your journey and background.
Well, first of all, that is so generous. So thank you so much.
But so true.
That's really generous. Thank you. I got here because I was a really sick person. In my early 20s, I was really sick. I came down with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and back, 17 or so years ago, there was not really a clear, defined, even diagnosis for that. And I was going from doctor to doctor, and all they really gave me were pain pills or antidepressants. And I just refused to take them. I found myself at the Mayo Clinic thinking this team approach would save me from the endocrinologist that told me that I should go on disability. So I did not want that for my life. So I kind of reluctantly found naturopathic medicine. Actually, first I found integrative medicine, which really was a jumpstart for me. But it was when I found naturopathic medicine and found a practitioner that held those tenets of naturopathy so dear, and really, instead of trying to give me a supplement instead of prescription, really decided to and understood how to support the vital force. It made such a difference to me, and my life turned around. I mean, Megan, I was so sick that I remember crawling across my apartment floor to go to the bathroom. And I had neurologists who told me I was demyelinating, and it was terrible. I was single. I wanted to start a family. I had so much I wanted to live for. And I really feel that naturopathic medicine is what saved my life. And it sounds so dramatic to say that, but it did. And so afterwards, it's just like when you read a book that changes your life, or you find a religion that changes your life, you just want to tell everyone about it. And I became just evangelical about it. And I knew that I wanted to somehow be part of it. And that's how I got involved.
And so tell us a little bit, for people who don't know, how did you become involved? And one of the key things about your story that I just want to point out, because I point this out to all my patients too, is part of what I think has made you successful in the advocacy work that you do for naturopathic medicine, and thank you for that.
Thanks, Megan.
Is that it's a sense of purpose, and maybe speak to a little bit the power of purpose in your life at assisting someone to be fueled and compelled forward with respect to their health.
Oh, wow. So I was sent by the team at Mayo Clinic to basically a support group for women in pain syndromes that we now call fibromyalgia. And, they were like sucking on fentanyl lollipops and were just out of it. And I think about those women, and I think about what would have happened to me if I hadn't found that. And my websites, they're small relatively. They're not big as like Mercola and such, but NDNR and Naturopath reach well more than 1 million patients a year in educating about naturopathic medicine. And I just feel like this medicine and the tenets are so unique and so powerful and so true to the nature of how we as humans heal and what the dis-ease process really is, that I just feel like it's a responsibility to share that. Like it's like once you know something, you can't keep it to yourself. It feels irresponsible.
Yeah, I love that. And that's an incredibly massive impact, right? When people are going to these places and they are hearing the information that you're sharing, and speaking to NDNR in particular, like this is a very foundational and evidence-based look at naturopathic medicine and the breadth of what naturopathic medicine is really about. You talked about the vis before, but we're also talking about really compelling, advanced functional medicine interventions. Can you speak to a little bit about the breadth of evidence for naturopathic medicine? The fact that I believe, and I posted about this last week, we've moved past a place where people can really authentically say, I don't believe in that stuff anymore.
Right. Well, sure. I think my decision to make it basically case report or case study format was because, science changes. And it was Dr. Angel, who was the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine for 2 decades, female MD, and she said that she came to the conclusion reluctantly that you can really no longer trust most of the research that you read because it's funded, and I'm not against science because nature is science, but the way that we publish science is often has an interest. And so for me to include the anecdotal evidence is really important. I mean, if you look at what a double-blind study really is, I mean, it's a quick window of anecdotal evidence that's manipulated or set in a certain framework. And with with the case reports that I include in naturopathic medicine, of course, these are naturopathic physicians who are rooted in science. They learn science, and they learn the science of nature and the science of pathology. So for me, the science is already sort of a given. And I feel like that going to the anecdotal evidence and the actual patient doctor relationship in a particular case, I feel like that's not dumbing down or ignoring science. I feel like it's taking science and applying it in the real world. And that's where healing really happens. Healing does not happen in a petri dish.
No, you are so right. Can you tell us a little bit about what you are talking about when you say the vis? Because you shared that with respect to your own healing journey. And I think for a lot of people, they're like, what is this concept that she was talking about? I'm so intrigued.
So just the vital force that is a mystery to all of us, but guides all of our lives. It's what makes a seed sprout. It's what makes us conceive. It's what causes our hearts to beat and for us to fall in love and for our cells to replicate. It's really the great mystery of life that we've all partake in. It's this force of nature. Sometimes it's God or the universe or love. It's really the great unknown, but we observe it every day. And we also observe what happens when we, get in the way of that and we divorce ourselves from who we really are, from our natural world. I mean, look, a lot of naturopathic medicine is removing obstacles to cure. And how often are those obstacles really how we are divorcing ourselves from our humanness, our humanity? And naturopathic physicians are so uniquely ingrained into that philosophy. And, the question is it the schools that teach that philosophy, or is it people that already embrace that philosophy that are led to these schools, naturopathic medical school? And I don't at all mean to disregard other fields of integrative or holistic medicine. I just like to say how naturopathic medicine is different. For example, my heritage is French and Italian, but I'm an American. There's certain things about my Italian heritage or my French heritage that I love to celebrate, that I'm proud of. And I don't want to dissolve that. I don't want to just totally melt that away to just be American. Like I hold those things dear to me, and there's traditions and philosophies that I hold dear. So I feel the same thing about naturopathic medicine, and a lot of my advocacy in the summits that I do and in the networking that I do and in the speaking that I do is really to show people really what that naturopathic heritage is, how naturopathic medicine is different and unique. And that doesn't mean to say we can't all play on the playground together, but I think it's really important to honor the difference. And I think that our differences are what give us our strengths when we come together. I just think it's important to not disregard that, give that away, or to hide from it.
Yeah, I think that part of the power, as you say, with naturopathic medicine is this unique framework in which we approach health and care, and we call it the therapeutic order. And it's, I have a lot of colleagues who say, I practice functional medicine, or I practice this kind of medicine. But I think that the power of naturopathy is when we can combine these other tactics with this fundamental strategy, which is really about having an approach to care. And like you said, it starts with, we have to remove the obstacles to cure, which I think right up front is one of those sort of fundamental differentiators from Western medicine, is that we go upstream and we go, okay, what are the things that got you into this place in the first place? Which is so powerful.
For sure. It really is. I couldn't agree more.
You're this incredibly gentle soul and making this really big contribution in the world. You are a successful entrepreneur. And I know we talked a little bit about these systems of medicine, but I'd really like to get some insight in terms of your systems as a business person, as an entrepreneur. How is it that you evaluate opportunities? Because you have a lot of them coming your way at this point.
So I wish I had a really scientific answer for this, but I'm going to be honest in here and say it's purely intuition and instinct. And I was thinking about this just the other day, and I looked up a study on interoception and and futures traders, financial traders. And there are actually quite a few studies on interoception and the feeling, kind of like using a body sense, a gut feeling, for lack of a better word, in making decisions. And what the study showed is that these people who were, the majority were men, but when they followed this interoceptive response, like how their heart rate was feeling, how their breathing was, how their body just felt, they made more successful trades. And they had a longer career on the trading floor. And there's actually just, a surprising few handfuls of studies on this. And I think that, I just really rely on how I feel about something. I tend to be, I think, different than many entrepreneurs, is I never think in terms of market and competition. I feel like that's just a mal indicator. I think that's, for me, I go by exactly how I feel about something or someone, and I make a decision there. I've had opportunities presented to me that look on paper like they're a complete no-brainer, and I just don't feel really comfortable with the person. Not that there's a story behind it or anything, but I just feel that it's not good. And whenever I ignore that, failure comes. And so I have learned to really rely on that. I think partially some of that comes from when I was a teenager, I had a near-death experience. And I feel like that also led me to really appreciate naturopathy more, because it made me question, wow, if all these doctors, when I was dying in the hospital, weren't able to do something for me, and then I had this experience and suddenly my body healed, it made me question, where does healing come from? And naturopathic medicine kind of answers that. It comes from within, your vital force. And I think that makes me pay more attention, even in my business, about what's the internal signal that I'm getting from this non-local consciousness that we're all part of. So I guess that's a lengthy way to say I just follow my intuition. And I think women are specifically positioned to do this. As women, I think, naturally follow our intuition. I think we're in positions as mothers and caretakers to really follow those feelings. And that's just been actually my secret.
And so you have a busy life. So what do you do on a daily basis to really cultivate this idea of tapping into your intuition? Because it's also something that is really easy to have shut down when we're caught up in the busyness.
Sure. I used to wake up in the morning and the first thing I would do is check my phone for, important emails. I would check my social media. I would look at my calendar. And instead now I go outside barefoot and I breathe in the morning air. And I hug a few trees in my backyard. As ridiculous as that sounds, it's just a grounding experience for me. And I try to center myself or weed a little bit in the garden. I homeschool my kids, and, having them here with me helps me, keep sort of that sense of humanity, I think, and it keeps me balanced. I have an office nearby, but I work mostly from a home office. And that's hard to do in many ways, but it also helps me pay attention to what's important. And I think that it helps me make better decisions also.
So as a mother of three and as someone who has a business, I'm listening to you and you just threw this in there. You're like, oh, and I homeschool my kids. And I'm on a very logistical level. I'm curious, how do you do that? How do you find that balance? Because this is a secret I want access to.
Well, I think that sometimes the more things that are in my life, the less I procrastinate. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Totally makes sense.
Like I just have so much that I have to do that I don't even have a chance to think about not doing it. Now, the girls do have a tutor that comes twice a week for a few hours to make sure that we're on track for everything. And I really am a strong proponent of the unschooling philosophy. So the girls were in school for 1 year. It really didn't fit our lifestyle. And I don't really like just taking curriculum and translating it to like, you're doing everything you do in school, but you're doing it at home. I want my girls to learn and I went to school, so anyone listening who doesn't homeschool their children, I'm not judging that at all. I went through school all the way, but I want my children to not be taught how to solve a problem. I want them to figure out how to solve a problem. I also like that they're around me when I work because I want them to feel like when they grow up, they can create a career for themselves and not just go look for a job. So I guess it's just a choice I've made, and so. Like anything else, you just do what you have to do. Now, I do get overwhelmed, of course. But to be quite honest with you, when they were in school, I was just as overwhelmed that year because I was scrambling in the morning to get everything ready, scrambling in the afternoon. And I feel like I'm on my schedule now. We're on our schedule now instead of someone else's. And it's overwhelming. But you know what? So is being a mom. So is being a woman. So is being an entrepreneur. And I just have to, just remind myself why I'm doing it. I think also when we talk about female entrepreneurship, I went through a divorce a few years ago, and it's not ever fun or easy for anyone involved. And at that point, I probably could have just kind of given up. But I wanted to show my daughters that I could rise above the occasion, and I wanted to make the business something bigger and better and more impactful than it was before. And I think in some ways that the divorce really motivated me because I couldn't just coast along anymore. I didn't have someone supporting me anymore. And, maybe there's a little fight or flight in there if I'm honest.
Yeah, I love the consciousness and the intention that went into this idea of homeschooling your daughters, because it aligned to where you are at. We don't homeschool our kids, but we actually had a conversation last night around how do we consciously cultivate an atmosphere within our family where our kids can respectfully challenge rules and challenge the status quo and not get caught up in all of the shoulds that happen. And it's actually something we've become acutely aware of in school, is that it builds a lot of core beliefs about how we are supposed to interact and engage with society. And it takes a lot of work now, even with our kids in school, to make sure that we are consistently enabling them and allowing them to not get caught up in the constructs of how they're supposed to be.
It's so important that you're thinking that way, Megan, because children don't only learn when they're being taught. Children are learning all the time. It's how their brains are wired. They're learning by watching and taking in and just everything in their environment. So the fact that you're so conscious about that is really just so beautiful because, there are these little memes and rules in any institutionalized philosophy. And again, I grew up in what I call educational institutions, industrialized education. And I feel like it served me well. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. But the world is changing, and there's part, I can expose my children to new ideas that way, but you can still do that, at the dinner table. You can still do that in the morning. You can still do that by consciously, engaging in their teachers and understanding what the curriculum the schools are choosing, because we're just sort of taught as parents that, like when I decided to homeschool and I saw the world of curriculums available out there, I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that we have any kind of choice about what our children learn. And so the fact that you're asking those questions is, obviously in alignment with who you are too. It's beautiful.
Well, and it's also, we have choice of education, and then we also have choices with respect to our health. And we have more power with respect to our own health than I think we give society credit for. We have rules around what to expect with respect to health. If we're sick, we go to the doctor, we are given something, and that makes us better. And that's how we start to define health. What was the big realization for you as you went through your own health journey? When was your aha moment where you're like, whoa, I get to control this. I have way more control over this than I ever thought I did?
Yeah, I think the biggest realization was that I had lived a large part of my life just letting things outside of me, direct the course of my life. That there are just certain things that you don't question. You just kind of fall in line and do what you're supposed to. And with naturopathic medicine, the fact that you don't, it's not just this contrite industrialized standard of care that, like, everybody with this disease, first we do this, then we test for this, and if this is, and then that, and if then this, then that, if this, then that. And it was just that all just went out the window, and it was so exhilarating and a little bit scary. But it took me some time to fully recover, but I started feeling better right away. And to actually experience like what happens like in a movie or commercials, where like the color of the sky actually looked brighter and bluer, and the things that I was eating actually tasted more vivid and delicious. It was just, I was able to really experience life more. And I think it kind of the journey brought me back to what I experienced in my near-death experience, because for this moment that seemed to last an eternity, but was actually, who knows how long it lasted, I felt just so alive and so full of love and part of this consciousness that we're all part of. And then it was back to my life again, but healed, which was great. And I feel like the experience of healing through nature, through the principles of naturopathy, brought me back to that. I think that we all, and I don't want to sound too woo-woo here, but I think, but I'm a little bit woo, so I'll be authentic. I think
Let's do it.
I think we all, I think we spend our lives here on earth searching for that wholeness that we experience, that I believe we experienced before. And some people do that through drinking or alcohol or drugs, or some people do that through overachieving, or some people do that from running long distances or jumping from relationship to relationship or sex. Like, I think that we're all kind of searching for that. And I think naturopathic medicine tries to put you in alignment with who you really are, So it's like the therapeutic order. I think the naturopathic therapeutic order is so beautiful, because if you look at the steps in the therapeutic order, you don't get to like herbs and supplements until like step 4 or 5. It's like, there's so many other things. There's like, just being human, water, sunlight, temperature, healthy relationships. What other system of medicine does that?
And honors it. It's not just a passing handout.
Exactly.
Yeah, it truly honors that piece. I do find a struggle in practice, because I'm just so entrenched in this world now, where sometimes you'll listen to someone's story and they're on. I had someone last week. She was on 26 medications when she walked in my office, and I looked at her. I was like, "Do you drink water?" She's like, "Oh gosh, I haven't had a glass of water in like weeks." And I was like, "But we're on 26 medications here. Like, there's just such a disconnect in terms of the things that enable a body to thrive and our ability to honor it. Sometimes it's actually just really the most simple things that we need to do to start to get better. And I'm really excited about the work that I'm going to be able to do with her beyond just drinking water. In looking at some of the emerging trends and some of the research that you are publishing through NDNR, are there some healing or health trends that you are starting to see that you think are going to become bigger parts of the conversation as we move into 2018?
Well, certainly, there's been a shift towards talking more about genetics, and, SNPs and THFR and things like that, but the most popular, most widely read articles, both online and in print and even through our vast social media, always are the more traditional nature cure. So I think that there is a resurgence and maybe a revival towards just really like crunchy nature cure. I see people getting really excited about that. I think that's a trend that's going to continue. I mean, we see things like people talking about grounding and different plant medicines. And I think that as much as homeopathy has been sort of, Pashad, I also see a resurgence there. I see more and more people asking about it and writing into us about it and wanting to know how to find it. And then the other trend that I see is just going more and more narrowly niche. I feel like that with all of the information that is online and just everywhere, and there's so many different types of practitioners now, and moms becoming health coaches and essential oil practitioners. I think that the more niche that you become, either as a practitioner or as an entrepreneur or in your product, I think that is going to become more and more the kind of the path to success. I think that there's so much general information out there now that people are looking for those who have really micro narrowed in. Like an example of that is a woman that I mentor, Dr. Nirala Jacoby. She does digestive health, but she specifically does SIBO. And that was a really scary thing for her when she started doing that, because she's kind of saying no to all these other digestive health issues. And how can you have a successful clinic or teach practitioners or have a testing company when you're just such a small slice of the pie? But what happens then is when you go extra niche, you're serving a specific community so well, and then you become known for that for everyone. That's also what I did with NDNR. Early on, I had a lot of people, even within some of the political organizations in naturopathy, associations saying, it's not a big enough field. It's not growing fast enough. You should just do integrative. And I thought, but that's not where my heart is. And so I decided to keep it just niche. And now, there's a cult following of readers from every type of practitioner that are coming to learn about patient care and healing and dis-ease through the naturopathic lens. And it's just furthering naturopathic medicine instead of hindering it. So, now instead of being watered down and assimilated, it's strongly niche, but it serves as a tool for other people. And so I feel like that going niche is a trend that we're going to see more of, and as a way to success.
I love the tout to your French heritage that you're pronouncing niche as niche, not niche. It kind of made me smile as we were talking about it. I agree. We've got practitioners who certainly listen to us, but we have a lot of entrepreneurs in general, and this is certainly a trend that I see in my coaching world. Is that when you are really hyper focused on a particular population or a particular area of expertise, your growth is so exponentially faster than the generalist, and really hanging out in that generalist zone. Usually when we break it down, there's just a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of fear, like you say, of just saying no to certain populations. You have this unique insight. We're in the midst of the Dream Business Summit, which you are one of the hosts of, and you've had the opportunity to interview so many thought leaders in the area of health entrepreneurism. What are some of the commonalities in the messages that they are espousing? What are some of the lessons that you've learned in hosting that we can share with the breadth of entrepreneurs who are listening to the Anthropology podcast?
Well, I think that the first thing that I noticed is the most successful practitioners and entrepreneurs that I know and that I've talked to are very confident. And I don't mean that in an egotistic way, but they know what they know and they know what they don't know. And they stand really firmly and proudly in that. And a little bit, that's a little bit of a nod towards when we were just talking about niche, being able to say, this is what I do. I don't do this. Go to this gal for that. So I see that as an opportunity to be just amazingly confident. And confident is like a halo that you wear that people want to kind of stand in the light of. So I think that to be able to cultivate and feeling really confident about what you do, whether you're a new practitioner or a seasoned practitioner, I think that is just a way to draw opportunities towards you because people seek you out. I also think, and we talked about this a little bit offline, is that one of the big secrets is there is no secret. There are really these just basic marketing principles. They're time tested. And a lot of the new fluff is just that. It's just fluff. It's like you have to know your client. You have to know your avatar. You have to be in a point, like Peter Osborne and I like to talk about this, is that you want to be in a position where you're not pursuing the patient. They're being educated about what you are and they're pursuing you. And you have to value yourself, or your client or your customers aren't going to value you. So these are all themes that we all know, but yet oftentimes as business owners and entrepreneurs and clinicians, we kind of ignore those, looking for the next, what's the real secret? Like, it's kind of like people that want to lose weight. Like, yeah, I should eat right and exercise, but what else can I do?
Yeah, I'm not going to drink water. So silly, right. Megan. No, there's got to be something more.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about this confidence piece, because you have it, and I have it, and other people have it, and a lot of people don't. I sat with a practitioner yesterday, and she's like, I know I could take action if I just had confidence, but I'm still at that phase where when people get better, I'm surprised. So how do we accelerate that? Because there's a confidence that comes from being in practice for 10 years or having success in business, but like where do we tap into to really find that? Because I think there's things you can do every single day that start to accelerate that confidence for people.
So I have kind of a crazy answer to this, but if you'll indulge me, that it's really, I kind of alluded to it a minute ago, but I think that if you lack confidence, if you start with understanding who you aren't, I think that sort of helps you peel away. And then it's like suddenly the clouds part and the sun shines on who you really are. So I took what some of my greatest insecurities were and just became okay with that. I'm a shy person. I'm only outgoing with people that I know, and that hasn't always served me. That can often sometimes come off to people as that you're not friendly, right? Because you're shy and quiet. I have, insecurities. I'm a very soft-spoken person, and that can tend for people to not think. Like, I had a really good friend of mine the other day who's actually a naturopathic doctor and quite a successful one. And we were at a conference together, and there was a guy, quite prominent financial guru, speaking, and I asked him several questions. And she texted me later that week and said, I was just thinking about how smart you are, Razi. And I was just like, what? What are you talking about? So I called her, and she's like, well, sometimes just because you're just so nice that I forget that you're also smart. And I was just like, and so I had that experience also. I was in my college, my roommate right after college, Jennifer, my best friend at the time, she passed away. But she one day asked me if I would cut her hair. And I said, trust me, Jen, you do not want me cutting your hair. She's like, please will you just cut my hair? I'm going out tonight and I need a haircut. I was like, what would make you think that I could cut your hair? And she's like, well, you went to Regis. Well, Regis University is a small Catholic college in Denver, Colorado that I went to. Not Regis, the hair academy that's like the low-end hair academy all across the United States. So, I mean, this is my best friend. I lived with her for a couple of years, and she thought that when I said I went to Regis, she thought it was, a hair school. So that, I've had that experience a lot of my life. And when I was in commercial real estate, also not being taken seriously, like I would show a building to someone and they would say, let me talk to your your boss. And I'm like, I'm the leasing agent. This is my listing. Like, talk to me.
I'm the boss. Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like the Legally Blonde syndrome. Like, I don't at all think I'm anything like her, but just the fact that people didn't want to believe that she was smart enough to go to Harvard. Like, so I think that this happens with women often. I think that, and I'm probably going on a tangent. I'm so sorry.
Go on the tangent. We're going there.
I feel like women can't be kind or good-hearted or nice or even feminine and be taken seriously as entrepreneurs. And what I just did with that because I couldn't really fight against it. I wasn't going to turn into like a bitch and wear like a pantsuit just to prove myself, you know? So I just decided to just accept that and just work with people I feel good working around who do, you know, appreciate what I can offer to something. And if they don't get that about me, it's their missed opportunity. And once I started doing that, opportunities started knocking on my door. My calendar got so full, people asking me to help them, to mentor them, to partner with them. And so whatever your greatest insecurity is, just be okay with it. You know, just accept that. And I think confidence for me came from there, from just understanding, you know, like, you know, I'm quiet, I'm meek mannered, I'm not tough and sexy. This is who I am. And that gave me the confidence I think that I needed, not only in my business, but in my life.
This is super powerful because what I'm hearing you say is that confidence is easy when you're authentic.
Yeah, that's a much more eloquent way. Just edit out everything I just said.
No, it was brilliant because that's where we get it. But I was listening to you and I was like, oh, you just slipped into your state of confidence when you just acknowledged who you were and were proud of it and okay with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do you do in those situations where you do need to have a distinct boundary, where you are negotiating with something, how do you manage that? Because I know there's a lot of women going, okay, I can really resonate with what you're saying, but I find I go into a negotiation or I'm working on a contract or I'm up against someone who uses bullying and intimidation as their way of moving their business forward. You obviously have encountered these things. What do you do? How do you position yourself?
Well, you know, the thing about it is as you know, is even like the most docile mother cat, domestic cat, when put in a corner, will hiss. And I don't do it in like a mean way, but earlier on in my career, I was a bit of a pushover, I'll admit. And when I would flex my position a little bit or my authority or what have you, I think people would often see it as maybe passive aggressive because they weren't used to seeing me assert myself. And then people found out they were kind of tipped off their pedestal, so to speak. And so I think that, I think that you already answered the question when you said boundaries. You know, you can be yourself and just be really clear about what your boundaries are. And just in my same demeanor that I do everything else, I just say, you know, like I'll give you an example. A fairly good sized organization wanted to partner with me on something. And I think that their feeling was that I was just going to, you know, stand aside and let them have access to everything that I've built, to the community, to the list I've nurtured for such a long time, the tribe of naturopathic medicine that I really so strongly guard and try to protect. And I said, look, I've worked a really long time to build this community, and there's absolutely no way that I'm going to partner in a situation like this unless it was clearly co-branded and I'm the one in the driver's seat. And that's just the way that I do business. So I didn't like curse or swear or anything. And they need to think about it, and that's fine with me. And if they come back and agree to my terms, then we'll all be happy. And if not, then we won't do business together. So it's just it's just like you said, being authentic and just and having the clear boundaries. And again, when you realize who you are and also be okay with who you aren't, it's easy to maintain those boundaries. But it's just like any other muscle. Like you have to practice it. I had to practice it. I had to practice that in small ways until I felt comfortable doing it.
But there's nothing that anyone is ever good at that doesn't take practice. For
sure.
Yeah.
And failure. Like I would never want to be mentored. Like my mentor has failed and has succeeded a lot and has failed. And I learned a lot from his mistakes. I wouldn't want to surround myself with people who haven't made mistakes, because that's where the greatest lessons are. I've certainly, Megan, you're only seeing the projects I've done that have succeeded. You're not looking at the portfolio of failures.
Right. Yeah. And I'm a huge celebrator of failure as well. And those are always the periods of the most rapid acceleration and growth. And I'm an efficient person, so I really value those opportunities and experiences.
Yeah, I think that, God bless the failures. It's like, if we were just all here and everything was perfect, like, what's the point?
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that also, like, going through failure and then getting back up and taking a step forward is another one of those pieces that contributes to that confidence. We all think confidence comes from the big win, but confidence can equally be accelerated with the big fall and the capacity to stand up again. Both of them will drive confidence.
And I think as women entrepreneurs, we don't separate. I'm going out on a limb here, so if anyone's listening, I'm just going to scream at their computer or phone. But I feel like that. I just lost my train of thought, Megan. Hang on a second.
The limb of failure.
Yeah. I feel like that when we try to separate our personal lives from our business, I don't think that's reality. It's like how a border between like Arizona and New Mexico doesn't really exist. It's an imaginary line. And I think that when we completely draw a line between the two, I think that it messes things up. I think that like an example is I had this 3-year period in my life where my sister died suddenly, my marriage failed, and my father died. Boom, boom, boom. And I know many people listening have gone through much worse tragedy, but it was a really dark time for me. And it took a lot of it took a lot of introspection to, I just couldn't set that aside. Like, I didn't talk about those losses in my daily business, but I still remained in that space. Like, I didn't set aside my grief, go to work, and then come back. Like, I carried the grief with me. I let it give its messages to me. And I even let it influence my business decisions. Like, for instance, I put on the Heart Revolution, which was a really super successful summit talking about, cardiovascular health from every vantage point, from emotional health, physical health, relationships, spirituality, and, all sort of musings of the heart. And that was, a huge list builder for me. It was greatly successful. And it was also a journey of healing. Would I have chosen that event if I hadn't gone through those things? No. And now I have that added to my list, a tribe of people that really care about what I have to say. And so, again, in another lengthy, long-winded way, I'm trying to say that, like, I think women are particularly positioned to be really creative entrepreneurs because we tend to not always have that line of separation between our real life and our work.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that makes us so brilliant at what we do.
Definitely.
Razi, you leave these breadcrumbs of legacy everywhere you go. But if I were to ask you explicitly, what do you want your legacy to be? What is that?
I want to be the person that brings the beauty and efficacy and safety of naturopathic medicine to the entire world.
I think you're doing a pretty good job of that. How would you define health?
I would define health as just a state of our natural humanness. I think that we are frail and strong and broken and beautiful. And I think health is a continuum. It's not a destination. I'm sure I'm stealing that from someone. I don't know who must have said that originally, but
we'll take it. We'll give it to you for now. Each month, I'm featuring a new anthropology quiz to help you unlock and uncover some of the physical performance blocks that may be holding you back from your true potential. When you know better, you can do better. To learn more or to take the quiz, head on over to meganwalker.com/anthropology quiz. I always finish my interviews with looking at something I call KPIs. So just like we have them in our business, I believe that we have key performance indicators in our life. And I'd love to just throw 6 rapid fire questions at you to get a sense of what happens for you on a daily basis, to see where you're drawing some of your inspiration. So if you're ready to go, we're going to jump into those.
Okay.
There's no math questions. There's nothing hard. There's no geography.
I don't have to carry the one.
No, you're totally fine. There's one long division question, but other than that, you are going to be okay. Okay, number 1, do you have a consistent morning routine? And if so, can you share it?
Yes, I wake up in the morning. I step outside to my backyard barefoot. I hug a tree that my father planted when I was 3 years old. He's now gone. I come in, and so I spend some time there kind of reflecting on the people that matter most to me. Sometimes this process is a half an hour. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. I make sure that I do it. I come inside. I make a cup of tea, and I get a little bit of work done before I wake up my girls.
Great. Fiction or nonfiction? What are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm reading research on the neurobiology of love, and it's mostly on PubMed.
That's so, I love it. We're geeking out on self-love on PubMed. So lovely. What is the one thing you are most consistent with respect to your health?
I'm most consistent with, the 4 physicians: water, air, sunlight, and earth.
What's something totally badass about you that people would not otherwise know?
I don't know if it's badass, but like I studied hypnotherapy. I became a certified hypnotherapist, and I tried to help people stop smoking. That's not badass. It's more funny.
That's so great. How did that go?
It was great, but I found myself just really like being so that's why I know I could not. I love naturopathic medicine, but I couldn't be a doctor because I just had no like border between like their sad story and my life. So
I love it. Little known fact. It's so great. What do you do for fun or play?
I love to cook. And my daughters love to cook too. I eat gluten more than I'd like to admit, and we do a lot of baking.
Great. And it's a good time of year for that. And last question, entrepreneurism. Are we born this way, or do we learn to become entrepreneurs?
I think that entrepreneurship is a series of following your intuition and allowing creativity to express from you. So I think that it's just like learning to play an instrument. I think anyone can learn, but some people are born with more of an aptitude for it.
Such a good answer. If people haven't already figured this out, Razi is an incredible entrepreneur. I'm going to call you a naturopathic knight. And you have a lot to teach people. Where can people learn more about what you are up to? And in particular, if you could just share a little bit about the VEAST network and the new mastermind that you are launching.
Sure. So you can find me on social media at Naturopath or NDNR, Naturopathic Doctor News and Review. I do have a new mastermind group that's specifically for naturopathic doctors or entrepreneurs that have kind of embraced that naturopathic philosophy. And it's called the VIS Network Mastermind. VIS because that means strength, power, and force. And I feel like those principles can be used in healing and in business. And so you can find me there at visnetworkmastermind.com. And I love to connect. I also have a really fun little pet project called Love is Medicine. It's a closed group that I'm keeping really small that you can find on Facebook. And I like to, as you said, geek out on the influence of love on our relationship, or on our relationships and health.
It's amazing. I love that group. I love your energy. Razi, it's been such a pleasure having you, and we'll have all of these links and access points available in the show notes. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Megan.
If you enjoyed our conversation and would like to hear more, head on over to Stitcher or iTunes and subscribe to the Anthropology Podcast. We would also really appreciate a quick review. When people have their health, they can change the world. Let us keep you healthy and you go change the world.